Okay.
Well, good morning as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful morning. This January 2nd, 2025. I sure do hope that you celebrated accordingly and gave yourself a little break and a little reminder that there's so many wonderful things that one can engage and have fun and whatnot and all of the above. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty and Francis Sam when it comes to public access and especially when it comes to LTV. And of course, the likes of you out there make it your business to enhance and fortify this concept as we hope entering 2025 it will add more, more of all the aspect that makes this wonderful station viable and effective. And of course, in a way, 2025, 24, 26, it doesn't matter. Here at LTV, it's 24/7. We know our job and it's thriving and it's progressing every day. My first guest for this year, Bob Sullivan. Bob, God bless. I mean, you are now. I need to make an adjustment to at least make you look. Okay, that's good. We're in the business of trying to make our guests look good. Bob
Mhm.
Sullivan, I'd like to rave in front of you about you and
Sure. Go ahead. As I say, take as much time as you like.
and, and if anybody is not aware of who Bob Sullivan is, a wonderful artist and a friend to LTV, and I'm sure in more ways than one, a friend to our community, and just so many other things that we're going to find out, I'm sure. So, first of all, thank you for coming this morning, and
Thank you
secondly,
for asking me.
I'd like to hear about what's happening with you in that transition 24-25.
Oh, okay, great. Well, yeah, it's time off. I've been working for this East Hampton School District, driving the school bus, and they had a very long Christmas, New Year's vacation this year, 2 weeks, and starting to get a little stir crazy. So I drove up to Lake Ontario and did some fishing for a couple days. The fishing was good. The catching was not so good. We didn't catch anything, but drove back, and it was good to just get out of the house and see some new sights. And it was also my girlfriend Lois's birthday, and we went out and celebrated a little for that and New Year's Eve at the same time. And yeah, I've been also painting. Been doing some painting for upcoming project that you and I are working on, and that's great. I like to have that extra time, that free time to be able to go in the studio and work all day if I want to.
Yeah, well, that's a lot to be said when it comes to an artist that happens to be an active artist and all this. But so do you? I don't remember from our last conversation. It went by so fast. It was so meaningful. I don't know if you had the chance to watch the first interview with
I
you.
haven't watched it yet.
So you should because it's good. We aired it half a dozen times, and it's. Um, but I wasn't sure if we were mentioning the whole idea of aspirations. Because your
Right.
style, the speed in which you actually reach an established conclusion speaks for some unique qualities that one must have in addition to just being an artist or someone who wants to paint. So is there like an evolutionary process or a process that's taking place that you imagine yourself that actually switching from 24 to 25 will be significant according to how you
Well,
paint paintings, how you break through, how you.
well, that's good. Good question. I remember once an interview Eric Clapton gave when he was much younger, and he said he practiced a lot. He played the guitar all the time, and his goal was to be recognized by professional musicians, and that's an aspiration of my own, is to see somebody else who's good, whose work I respect, in turn come back and respect my work. That's that's always been in the back of my mind. But it was a hard one to embrace because as a beginning painter, there's so many difficult paintings that don't succeed and become uh, an obstacle to achieving that sort of aspiration that you're referring to. In other words, you look at a painting the next day and you go, "Oh God, that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I'm no good. People don't respect me. I'm never going to be a success." and that's a difficult
It happens to
hill
us.
to
You,
yeah
that's yeah, it
a
does. Yeah,
hill
of
to get
course. I'm
over.
glad to hear that someone else feels like that
Uh,
because I do.
yeah, but you know, I heard Winston Churchill said, "When you're going through hell, keep walking. You know, don't stay there. Keep moving, move on, get through it. It's not going to be forever." And that's the deal I made with myself. I promised myself that I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't just sit there and stop. That I would do it. And in the last conversation we had, we discussed about wetting a brush every day. It's a difficult, at this time of year, you make your New Year's resolutions, and they say about 2 weeks later you give up on it. But it's an everyday resolution that I have. Every day I promise to either pick up a paintbrush, pick up a pen or a pencil, sketch, come up with ideas, draw, do something to keep myself reminded that that's who I am. I'm an artist, painter.
What is it that keeps us adamant and average? Because I think it's more important to know what keeps us uh, uh,
Are you talking?
stand still and not do the right thing supposedly for something meaningful to happen. So this passion and this feeling good about everything continues.
Right.
So what is it that keeps us simply average, which is really in my book almost unacceptable?
I see.
It's not
Yeah.
that I listen. There are many average artists and many just artists for the sake of just being artists, and it's great and it's wonderful, and I wish I could be like that. But still, in my immediate vicinity of self-recognition, I'd like to I'd like to understand not why am I not progressive, is why I am where I am. That the result of it is not progressing.
Right. Well,
Something like that. I'm just kind of
okay.
making it a
All
longer
right.
question than it should be.
Well, that's $1 million question. Maybe it's a $64 million question. But painting is not easy. And quite frankly, it's not necessarily fun. I had one of my teachers, he's very good, Mark DeLessio. I think I mentioned this last time. He said, if you're having fun, you're not doing it right. And if you expect to go in every single day and pick up the paintbrush and just, oh, this is so much fun, you're probably going to be disappointed. It's probably going to prevent you from continuing. If your motivation is just to have a good time and have fun, there's a lot of other distractions out there. The TV set, the kitchen, a friend's party. There's, a trip here, a trip there. There's a million excuses why you don't have to paint today. But the discipline to just be able to say, hey, even if it's only 10 minutes, I'm going to remind myself and tell myself that this is what I do. And a lot of times we go back to that question or the statement you made about uh, working quickly. You know, working quickly, I think, is
I
a
wouldn't say
product
quickly, you fast.
or
It's better.
okay, fast. Well, it's a byproduct of a lot of practice. When I started, I didn't understand perspective, but if I wanted to draw something that requires accurate rendering of a object, I have to know perspective. If I don't know it, I could work for hours and hours and not accomplish what I'm trying to do unless I do know how perspective works. So gaining all of these techniques along the way, you know, how to use atmospheric perspective, how to use 1 point, 2 point perspective allows me to like, okay, do this, do that, that'll work, do this, do that, that'll work, do that, and it does work, and it works, and you're done. As opposed to spending hours and days, weeks trying to figure out how the thing works. So for me, it's
So
getting
you pretty much took care of the other side, the technique side, all the tools are available to you, and you feel very familiar with them, and then you put that to rest. Then your creativity is kind of more on a purer level,
that's right.
And it's interesting that two things that happened to me because you say apropos that he said to you that you're waiting for someone to really that you're looking up to tell you, listen, I really like what you're doing, and that's all it takes. They don't have to go further in. This statement in itself is just telling you a whole story. So two things. I remember one. I painted a house for some big shot guy that one of his major passion was collecting art, and for some reason he said, I can trust you that you can touch my artwork and move it. This is $3.5 million, and this is that. And I think it was the first time in my life that I saw face to face an 18-footer, like a 5 by 18,
Yeah.
stretched. I
Yeah.
was more fascinated by the stretcher itself. Forget about the painting now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like, how is it? How can I do that?
Yeah.
I want to do that because it reminded me of one time that I sold a 5 by 6
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't stretched.
Uh-huh.
And the one that bought the painting from me was willing to pay a fortune for me to stretch it or take it somewhere.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to a stretcher and it was like $1,500,
Uh-huh.
which I did not question, but it just seemed like, why am I not doing it myself? Well, because I didn't
Uh-huh.
know how to do it.
Yeah.
It turned out to be a little more complicated than one thinks, but I mastered it.
Yeah.
And from then, that caused me to. I will sell you a painting. Doesn't matter what it is. If you need it stretched, it will, and will be delivered also.
Yeah.
So he came to one of my shows, the guy that I worked for,
Yeah.
and it was a big deal because he when he comes, he had his whole assistants with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they just came. They said,
Yeah.
"Okay, Ashwahol, let's do it." And so he comes into the gallery and he says, "Okay, take me around, because you need to take me around. This is your show."
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's already letting me. He's already teaching me something. You know what I mean? This is your
Okay.
show.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who I am. I need you. Take me
Right.
around. Walk me around.
Yeah, I get it.
And then we get to one painting, and he says, "Do you know how I know you're a good painter? It's because I look at this painting and I know 100% that I cannot do it myself. Not 95, 100%."
Yeah.
So that stuck with me. I said, "Okay, this is something I'm going to have for the rest of my life." Then
Yeah.
the second time, next door in East Hampton Studios, I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember that big studio we had here. Now it's
It,
the storage,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
30,000 square foot. Fraser Dougherty allowed me to use it then. He said, "It's all yours for a week." I transformed the place. I had maybe like 35 large scale paintings,
Wow.
So 2006, and someone approached me and whispered to me, "You put Jackson Pollock to shame." And I look at this guy. It turns out to be Norman Mercer.
Oh, I know Norman. Yeah, I knew Norman. He's
So
passed.
Norman Mercer, and he said, "I'm not kidding you. There's some things here that just blow my mind." Now I learned who he is. We became friends. He came on the show like 3 times. I actually ended up, long story, in his house, whatever it is. That never left me. It's like, because it's funny because it was exactly when I was just about to abandon what I was doing because it was too similar to some icon that I felt like I was convinced to believe that I'm up to no good with this.
Huh.
Abandon it. This doesn't
Huh.
belong to you. This is Jackson Pollock.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he comes and tells me,
You passed Jackson Pollock.
God, no,
Respected authority.
he told me, it would be criminal to stop.
Yeah,
You're doing fine, all this. So, okay. So this is what we mean when someone else tells you, "Hey, listen,
yeah. The
let me just
recognition.
break the news to you and I'm out of here." It's not like I'm going to bug you every day. Told you, that's it.
Yeah,
So, so then it turns out that it's not as so easy to just accept it at face value.
that
Our minds still playing it.
compliment.
No,
Yeah,
it can't be.
yeah.
So tell me about that,
it
because I'm
get
sure you have a.
it gets in your head, and then you start to think, "Oh, I'm so great."
But that's,
Why doesn't anybody recognize me? Poor me. I'm so great. Nobody likes me.
you feel sorry for everyone else that
Yeah.
they don't notice it.
It's twists right around in there. One hand is complimenting, and the other is slapping you in the face. Well, thanks. That's why I don't want the roller coaster. I don't want highs and lows. Give me nice smooth And I'll accept the compliments, and I'll kind of ignore the insults, you know, and just keep doing what I do, not try to be something I'm not. Just try to be what I'm good at, and don't you know don't try to get in out of your lane. They say you're driving. Stay in your own lane. Keep it smooth. But yeah, and that's and yeah, that's what I was talking about with the Eric Clapton thing. He wanted people who he respected to respect him, and and that's not saying I want to be wildly popular like what's her name, Taylor Swift. Like where all these people are adoring me. Become some sort of popularity uh, figure. Just simply getting the respect that I deserve for the ability that I have, and continue on from there, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that sort
yeah.
of what we're thinking about?
But yes, but then you have to agree with me that at the end of the day, everything goes back to that lame, supposedly rigid reality of brushes and paint and canvas and surface and first stage, second stage, third, fourth stage, fifth stage, as many stages as needs, all the way from facing a blank canvas to first application, doubts, high lows, high lows, high lows, and like you say, like um, Winston said, walk through it, because if you don't, that means you're dwelling too much. Where you don't, you, you know, and dwelling is like, for me, that's process of layers and process of uh, points in that I have to face with the canvas. Um, requires you to abandon everything that happened to you during the day, the outside world.
Uh-huh.
You realize these things. There's so much information, and there's a complete knowledge that there's so many new things to learn. We
Yeah.
got to know it.
Well,
Uh,
it's meditative
yeah,
almost,
and
right?
it's like I'm talking to you as if I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about. You know what
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean?
absolutely. Well, that's what there's a couple of things. One is that creating a good painting requires the knowledge of hundreds of different little techniques, little things, how to control the brush, how to mix the paint, how to apply the paint, how to blend the paint, what colors, is it a complementary? Is it there's just, it's minuscule. There's hundreds and thousands of them probably in every painting, that decisions that your computer up here has to make, and choosing the right ones. Like, oh, is this one that calls for a color blend, or is this one that calls for a value blend? These
But
relatively.
is your system, sorry that I interrupt, is your system compatible with how you manipulate certain things that become available to you in order to excel? That's the point that we need to talk about more. Like, so how do
I,
we feel that at the end of every day we really progressed? We really in a different place than that morning.
well, I don't think every day I do
No, it's just
progress,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but that's what the goal is. The goal is to every day come back a little better than we were when we started. Um, um, but it's really tricky. Another one of my favorite artists is Stapleton Kearns. He's up there in Cape Cod, and he says to me once. He said, "Bob, when I start a painting in my mind, it's going to be the best painting I ever painted. It's going to be beautiful." Then about halfway through, I say to myself, "Am I doing this right?" No, that's the question. Am,
Yeah.
am I doing this right? Because that's the question you ask yourself 1,000 times. Is this the right thing? Is this
Asking
the
this
right thing?
question makes
Is
it
it?
right.
Well, yeah. Well, you're at least paying attention,
Yes,
because you could
it's a
go
great
off on your own
indication.
and just wake up and go, "Gee, what have I done?" Which is kind of cool too. That's getting into a zone where you don't even know what you're doing, but when it's done, it's beautiful too.
Yeah.
You know. But then at the end of the painting, Stapleton says, "Oh man, this was going to be a really good paint. I don't mean really good. I mean this was going to be really good." And it doesn't always turn out to be really good.
The
You know.
advantage with abstract, forget about the whole idea of naming a movement abstract expressionism, which is the most pathetic name I can think of. I'm sorry to use the word pathetic.
I like that you say that
No,
because they didn't like the name abstract
no. I mean,
expressionism either.
But it's almost like you say rice and beans.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, nobody will tell you, wait, but they don't go together.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't go together. They are one.
Yeah.
This is rice and beans. So you say, oh, let's abstract expressionism because we, maybe we should say like 70-30, 60-40.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
it
that would have improved it.
Yeah.
That means abstract expressionism, abstract 30, 70, whatever numbers you want to give to it. But what they did is they're telling you that you want to express yourself. Oh, what a revelation, yeah? You want to be able to express yourself, but hold on, you got to do it in an abstractive way.
Abstracted way?
The abstractive way.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a word even in English.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Abstracted way, whatever.
Yeah.
And they leave it at that. Okay, so rightfully so that they leave it at that. Won't you think that the job is not to tell you, hey, listen, we then suggest to you that you should start with 80-20. And then this and that. And the more you become acquainted with what it really means to be involved in abstract expressionism, you start manipulating the number. You get more of abstract, more of an expression, more of a this, and all this. But even if they give you that and all the chart possible of all the possibilities,
yeah,
you're still in an up to no good zone.
You're
still in an up to no good zone. I mean, it's someone is trying to give you something that is self-explanatory and make you feel like it's a big deal. And that doesn't work. I mean, at least in my immediate agenda.
Someone's saying the formula is this, and you are not achieving the formula. In other words, you're failing because I have a preconceived notion of what percentage of your painting should be abstract and what should be expressionistic. And you're not achieving that, so therefore it's no good.
Yes and no.
That's standard.
Yes, standard. But the thing is, forget about the number. The numbers is my invention that I think if they should give you
whatever it is.
It's almost like when you bleach a deck, how much bleach do you put and mix with water? That's very important to know.
Yeah, sure.
Very important. It's the difference between compromising the wood and just doing a great job. 1, 2, 3. You make a little mistake, it goes long ways. But what happens is, why am I saying all that? Is because I would come to you and say, abstract expressionism, put it aside, let's forget about it.
Yeah.
Because once we mentioned that it's a part of our psyche, and it's a part of our psyche even if you haven't heard from it ever at all before.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Nevertheless, if you did. So now, what I'm trying to tell you is, let's decide to define what abstract is and become so much temporary, so much one with what it means to you abstract, that you start operating from that cleanliness of abstract. And it's inevitable that at the end of the day, we need so much aid from expressionism. So much aid. Why? Because expressionism will make it more realistic, more normal, supposedly, in the ocean of complexity and whatever that abstracts. It's unpredictable with abstract. You don't know. You mastering the way to initiate and to trigger, but you don't really know what's coming your way. It's always a surprise. But the level of conviction in triggering it, if it's so high as it should be, no matter what comes to you, you can handle. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're so conditioned. And that's without really saying, I'm going to do that in order to be more conditioned. This is a natural result. Now, already I'm explaining to you something that is very complex.
Yeah.
When we're talking about actually something that is so simplistic.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to tell you, it should be that complex. You say abstract expressionism, then you abandon its simplicity. Then you start really deciphering your choosing of what it is that you're going to attempt to decipher. And that makes it beautiful. So that means when I'm in front of a painting, apropos now we're talking, I allow things to come to interfere with my doings.
Sure.
So that means I will find myself being instinctive when I maybe even didn't think I should be. But I'm allowing it, and I'm allowing it. And you build that trust. And that trust is really your commodity. Because if you will be disciplined and Say, follow your conviction. In 2 hours, you'll be very happy that you decided to or not to. Yeah, you follow the logic, and then every time you approach the painting in the future, it will be the same process. Overwhelming.
Well, if you can, but the problem becomes, you know, do you promise yourself or do you set a goal for yourself that this is the way I'm always going to do it, and you can't always do it that way. It's like saying making making a New Year's resolution. I'm going to do this, and then you get into a painting, you're halfway through and you go, "Oh no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to turn it this way. It's going to move over into a new direction." And when it does, you have to have that's when you have to make your choice. It's a split in the road, whether you're going to stick with your existing formula or you're going to go into an area which is not um, your way of doing things. Like take like what you're talking about. I think de Kooning was one of the very first ones to get into that um, zone. Like he always insisted that his work was non-representational, and I think the people that followed him.
And he proved it in many of his paintings.
Yeah, well, he was an excellent representational
Oh,
painter.
yeah.
He could handle that, but he he decided that he wasn't going to um, uh, do anything that actually looked like a representation of our experience here on Earth. It was going to be something that was entirely new to everybody who ever laid eyes on it.
So, what do we learn from this statement? There's so much to learn from it.
Well, first of all, that's probably what abstract means. Abstract does not necessarily mean whatever it just means non-representational. And then the expressionism part of it to me means this is it could be a color choice, it could be a violence of the strokes, it could be a softness of the strokes, it could be harmony, it could be disharmony, it could be dark, it could be light. Uh, so the expression that you're trying to convey in your abstract expressionist painting uh, is going to be not a formula. It's got to come from uh, the painting itself, the organic process of creating the painting and it revealing itself as you go. Who was it? It was his wife, Elaine de Kooning, who came down every morning and go, "What happened to the beautiful painting you did yesterday?" And he would say, "Oh, I painted over it. It wasn't exactly what I wanted." And he would do that 30, 40 times. And she'd go, "You just ruined 30 or 40 great de Kooning paintings." And he'd go, "I know, but it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't there."
Exactly.
And
Well,
so, in his mind, a
yeah.
great painter who painted every day and was professional and highly paid, highly respected, still, even though other people loved it, he could not approve it. He could not accept it. He could not
That's called
say
the giving of doing the right thing, you know?
it hit to him.
Yes, to him
To
and
him,
to us.
not to his wife. She didn't like it. She figured,
Yeah,
well,
but
that's another $5 million down the drain.
of course,
Yeah.
but yeah, well, he made her understand that she's not the one who's painting. He
Well,
is
that's
painting.
right. He is.
Thank you for your consideration.
Yes.
Why do you have? You don't have enough money to go shopping or something?
Yeah.
$2 million in the drawer.
I have my
Knock
own
yourself out.
higher power to answer to.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's just like Picasso selling his paintings with a sheet over it. I thought I
Oh yeah,
remember I
you
told
did
you
say that. This is
Yeah.
what you bought here.
It doesn't leave
Yeah.
my mind
Yeah.
that he actually
He's,
in the conversation that takes place
and he says
between the two.
it
says
doesn't matter what you think of it. It's what I think of it.
no, it's actually the other way around because the Picasso wants to convince the potential buyer that it's not a good idea to buy the painting without seeing him. But he wants the buyer to tell him, but I'm not the one who put the sheet on it. You did it.
Right.
So does that mean you're doing it until at some given point you're going to reveal it? But of course he doesn't dare to ask it. So he will tell Picasso, you know that I will buy it no matter what. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
No matter what.
But what Picasso was trying to tell him that it's your personal taste. It's a
No,
subjective
Picasso
decision.
wanted to tell him that he is almightier than strong. You know what I mean? That he has is just like, if you want to come with abstract expressionism, you can come with a definition of what it is that I'm trying to do because I can and because I know that no matter what it is that I do, you will pause and doubt me because you're taking too many risks that you're not in the business of taking, i.e., you came for something, you want to leave with that something. I came to your studio. I don't want to get on my knees and tell you thank me for allowing me to be here because I would do it if I need to. But on the other hand, I will say, okay, so he says, so I guess you're willing to buy this. And then he actually the potential buyer already told him before he said that, that the price is not the issue. The issue is that I really want it. So he started teasing. He said, you want it and you will take it even without seeing what you're buying?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
said, I will.
Yeah.
So this thing, and at the end, he won't reveal it. He will wrap it, give it to him. He will write a check, whatever millions or whatever it is, and that's it. Goes on
Sight
his
unseen, the guy
yes,
spent the
yeah.
money.
So
Yeah.
what does it tell us that de Kooning is telling us that actually what's really, 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 really important is the venturing in the domain of abstracts and expressionism and the combination of the two. That's an incredible point of reference for a whole generation to follow. That at the
Uh,
end of the day, he believes that this has more value than any of his capabilities to execute realism and like you say, representational.
yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a huge lesson. I mean, where do we begin to draw the relevance from it?
Well, that de Kooning was a unique individual, and quite honestly, not everybody approached it with the same fervor and zeal that he did. He uh, People would tell you he got lost. He ended up in the weeds. He didn't know which way to go, um, and of course, towards the end of his life, he did experience dementia. So there is plenty of um, credibility to those statements. The fact that he um, had assistants and people working with him that did a lot of the background paintings that get established, and he would come in and finish it, sort of deal, at the end of his life. So,
I don't
uh,
see anything wrong with that.
well, he didn't either at the time, and I don't. And there's a good percentage of the um, art buying public who doesn't see anything wrong with it either. But I would give credibility to the argument that, well, it's not a pure de Kooning painting. It's somewhat removed from his entire efforts. Other people are involved, and
But
so
then the
I
painting that
understand
you will
that too.
see will be nothing but de Kooning's. If someone preps whatever the scenery and all this, and he comes and puts his whatever
Final
main vision,
touch.
you won't see anything other than that. I think
Well, hopefully,
because he's so
hopefully,
dominant and so capable. This
yeah. But so we're talking about where we improve, how we go to the next level. How do we move um, from where we are today to where we want to be tomorrow? And the other question that is involved in that is, yeah, the recognition of uh, your fellow artists, their approval, but there's also the popularity of the public. Does are you have you become well recognized online, on the in media, uh, and then finally financial. Are you making money from your painting? You know, those, I think, in order of um, in order of quality, would be the recognition of your peers as number one, the popularity among the public is number two, and financially number three, in terms of being, uh, you know, representations of your character as a painter. In other words, you being uh, true to yourself, your purity, your um, I know there's words I'm trying to come up with that talk about your standards and the principles that you represent in your artwork. But the recognition of your peers, I think, is a very noble one. It's very high up there in the uh, quality of the achievement that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then some, because you know you have to act on it almost immediately and still maintain that accented signature of yours into this and like you say, maybe it favors you because you were like doing capable of doing things really fast, really quickly, and still maintain the dignity and the not compromise important things. So with you, you can really realize it, acknowledge it, and then do something about it immediately. Like you don't even have to find yourself in a second session in front of the canvas in order to implement that. So
well, yeah,
the
and
immediacy of that, that's
that's also what I would say is part of my goal too, as well as the spontaneous nature of it. The movie actor Gary Cooper said, a work of art has to look as if it took nothing at all to create. It has to look like it was the easiest thing to do, as opposed to something that was labored over and something that was picked at and that was like minuscule detail, things that just don't seem natural and don't flow. But art that does look like he just dashed it off in a couple of minutes and made it all come out look exactly the way he wanted it to is a goal I have.
yeah.
In other words, I want it to look loose, like didn't take much thought at all, uh, but that it accomplishes the representation that I'm looking for. Uh, and that, that's the kind of work I do. I do representational artwork for the most part.
Uh-huh.
And I don't want it to look labored. It doesn't look like, I had difficulty making it. I want it to look easy.
Yes, because it gives more room for people to enjoy it, really, to feel comfortable.
It's comfort. I think that's a
Yeah,
good word for it.
yeah,
They get plenty of, it's relaxed. It doesn't seem anxious or anxiety ridden. It doesn't look nervous or like, that was difficult for that person to create that. And they never did quite get it right.
yeah.
But when it looks loose and relaxed, uh, people, as you say, they get it's more comfortable to be around.
Yes.
But and that I think is the same thing de Kooning had. I think he had a very high level of anxiety when he was doing his work, so he was very critical of everything that he did. He wasn't, comfortable with things, and that's why he would take what his wife called a perfectly good painting and paint over it
Yeah.
and destroy it and just make it disappear.
And speaking of that, I don't know if you remember Michael McDowell, not Michael McDowell, Michael Kniggin. You remember him?
Yeah, yes, I
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He
He did
was,
those space
yeah,
astronauts and
yeah,
NASA.
yeah,
Diane,
yeah,
his wife. What's her name?
yeah.
Doreen.
John, yeah,
Yeah.
his first wife, I don't remember, but he was my brother. We were super, super, super close.
Oh yeah,
And
Michael Finnegan. Yeah,
oh yeah,
he had a good print studio too. I went over there and saw
yes,
his operation. Too bad he passed away as a
yeah, so
kind of
early.
young guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a guy that woke up in the morning and started drinking Diet Coke,
Oh boy.
and whiskey and 2 packs a day of cigarettes.
That's not good.
Anyway, he had fun. He's good. But I remember that I was always talking to him about, um, I was complaining about his code of conduct as a painter
Yeah.
because we were close. I said, this is up to no good. This is bulls, man. When are you going to decide to abandon this and be a little more kind of hands-on, the
You're a
immediacy of
troublemaker,
painting?
aren't you?
Yeah, I did
Yeah. You're a
because I
troublemaker.
because I thought that
Would help him
he needs someone like me to hear that.
because he was tight. His representation was
Yes,
very
very
photorealistic.
methodic.
Very
He was a great
photorealistic.
printer. I mean,
Yeah.
when he was a great photographer.
Yeah.
He did one of my greatest. Actually, he did. I took all of my invitations to my solo exhibitions, and with his help, we bartered for. I painted his house, and he actually made posters that
Yeah,
are
beautiful posters, I'm sure.
first class posters. I still have
Yeah.
many of them of
Yeah.
all my invitationals, which was
Yeah.
great. But so one day he's in my studio, which wasn't usual. This wasn't like I mean, I would go visit him in his studio
Yeah, he had a cool
mostly.
studio.
Very cool. So I had my small studio with Sylvia Tenenbaum. I don't know if you remember her.
The name's familiar.
Yeah, she was great. She was very generous with me. I had the studio there for 16 years. The backyard, horses and whatnot. So he was there, and suddenly, out of the blue, I said, you know what, Michael? Give me a second. I think this is the first time I can actually show you what I mean by preaching you all the time.
Okay.
I took a painting, beautiful painting of mine, 30
Yeah.
by 40. Beautiful, done. Put it on the easel and started doing things to that painting so quickly that before he would even realize that I'm doing what I'm doing or that I'm doing, period, it was done. And I said, Michael, this is what I mean.
Uh-huh.
So his first reaction is,
Not good, I'm sure.
you're a better man than I am.
Okay.
That's what he tells me.
Yeah.
Okay, now Michael Kinnigan, I don't need to preach him. This guy with a heritage from here to eternity, man.
Yeah. Well,
So,
was that he didn't say a better painter than I am. He said you're a better man than
yeah,
I
which
am.
is more significant.
Perhaps.
No, it's
Certainly
more, in my
not
eyes,
if you're
it's
judging it as a painter versus a person.
because that he already knew that I know that he knows about me, that I'm a good painter.
Right.
Of course he knew.
Right.
He never kept to himself.
Okay.
With
Yeah, he was
the
good.
sharing, oh yeah, the sharing. He was my mentor. I made him my mentor.
Okay.
You know, oh
Fair
yeah,
enough. Easy.
absolutely. So, and then we talked about it, of course. When
But
he
then
says
yeah.
that, then it opened a discussion. There was the natural continuation of my. Before that, it was like I'm kind of preaching him
You're
because
trying to convert him.
exactly I was
Yeah.
more dominant. Now suddenly we're having a discussion.
Equals.
Yeah.
His versus mine.
So I said, now you tell me that this experience that you just witnessed, how can you see yourself doing it on your end?
Yeah.
Just give me an example.
Yeah.
I mean, you can grab this photograph or painting, whatever it is. It's gorgeous,
Yeah.
and or maybe you can start something all together and exercise
Well, this is your
irresponsibility.
suggestion. What was his answer, though?
He, I think that it's in more ways than one. It influenced him in other forms of creativity.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, you have suggested that I try black and white paintings after my hero, Franz Klein, Hans Hoffman, both of them. But
And you did, and it's
I
like
tried, and I was like, okay, this is fun. But the problem is
no
sort of
fun
like,
is no good. Remember?
right. That's
Sorry,
you
it's
got
your
me
fault.
there. You got me there.
Watch it here.
Yeah. Well,
We're
I'm probably not doing it
detail-oriented.
right. And this is what you're saying, man. But it is spontaneous, and that falls into my my standards. This is what I insist that a painting have is spontaneity.
Yes,
It has to have
and it will
instant
reveal, I think,
qualities to it.
the real painter in you. Not that you're not feeling that you're real or the reality of what you're doing is not real, but it will reveal the real painter in you.
I like
Black
that,
and
and
white.
I have spent a lot of time reading about the abstract expressionist era and about painters whose work are nothing like what I do, and it's always been that standard that I hold, which is, could an average person with no knowledge of painting whatsoever look at this and go, wow, I can't believe that guy did that with paint? In other words, it's not just um, yeah, that's a nice painting. I want it to be a wow moment where the person says, I, he can see the paint strokes. He can see what the artist did in order to make it happen. That would be, um, oh, and and as opposed to an abstract painting where the person goes, I guess that's good, but I can't, I don't have the judgment to be able to say it looks exactly like it's supposed to look. In other words, a representational painting, a, a pond and a tree looks just like it's supposed to look, whereas an abstract painting might not look like anything whatsoever to a person without any previous art history, knowledge, or painting experience. So that's why I shied away from completely non-representational work because I could never make a judgment. I could never make the leap of critique to say, yeah, that's really really good. I can't believe the guy accomplished that using paint. It looked so much just like paint as opposed to a representation of something that I understand. So
Don't pay attention to me. Okay, very good. Um,
sure,
Someone asked me how many moons Neptune has,
yeah,
so
that's
I
an
had to
important
answer.
question. You had to answer. How many does it have?
14,
How did you know that?
because I'm a genius.
What did you do? You counted them at some point?
They
Sat
came,
there at night going,
they
three?
came in
Was
my
that two?
dreams.
Three? No, that could be a
came
moon.
came to me in my dreams,
Yeah, good.
and um, yeah. So going back to the revelation, the early revelation, that someone comes to you and taps you on the back and say, you're really great, and then you were like,
But it
okay,
has to be someone who you respect.
of
I've
course.
had plenty of people who say, "Oh man, you're a great painter," and I don't know what their painting skills or their painting knowledge are, and I don't take that compliment as particularly something to cherish. On the other hand, if one of my mentors or heroes said to me and said, "Man, you really know how to paint,"
Yeah,
I would say, "Wow."
but still,
Coming
if
from
someone
you,
comes and
that's a
have a remark,
compliment.
but if someone has a remark that you, and then he points out certain paintings that really, really, then you say, wait a second, I agree with him. I mean, he's aware
If
of
he,
what's.
yeah,
So
he
so
can
what
prove it
happened is,
at the moment to me,
I think
but
that I.
you get. I'll tell you, Haim, when I'm out in the field painting plein air, I will get what I call the drive-by compliment. That's where like a kid on a bicycle goes by on the sidewalk and he goes, "Wow, really good painting, mister," and keeps on going. And I'm not even sure he looked up from his bicycle. You know what I mean? It's that kind of compliment, which is a throwaway. It's not a real
No,
compliment.
it
It's not.
is. Why not? Why wouldn't you take it?
He gave me a compliment just for standing out there with an easel and a palette. That's the compliment he gave me. He didn't even look at it.
But
Let's say he didn't look at
it
it.
can be any other a revelation from it that you will decide for it to be, and it will be true. That he did that, or maybe all he needed is 1 second to see, and because he's a great painter himself, and he said, "Whoa, look at this."
Oh,
Uh,
I'm talking about an 11-year-old kid.
yeah, well, again, it's up to you what you're going to do with this information.
Yeah.
You're better off taking it more seriously than not. For example, I would. But anyway, I saw this guy, and he's telling me. I didn't say, "Okay, let me find out who this guy is before I will start being impressed." I was impressed. Yeah, no, but I mean, this was early on. This was early on. You don't forget, I started painting in '97, so it's not like. But this was like this guy's coming and telling me things that are important because I noticed that he noticed. And he noticed also in details which painting, why this, that. Now, before he said that, it's not like I needed support to believe that drip and splatter is something that I'm good at and it's important to pursue and all this. It was a, it was, it was, it was a, it was a no-brainer in my life. I knew that I was good at it. That's why I was doing it.
Well, did you know who Norman Mercer was?
No, I wasn't. I didn't.
Yeah.
But we became friends. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, listen, and then we had a talk.
Yeah.
And then the more I spoke with the guy, more I realized, man, he's the real deal. He's like, guys. Then I found out who he is, and we became friends. Then he brought some of his sculptures here in one of the exhibitions that I didn't know.
Did you know that I was a captain of his sailboat?
No.
I was
Good.
for 3 or 4 years, just up to his death.
So do you know his house on Ocean
Yeah,
Avenue?
I've been over there many times.
Okay, so
His
if you
wife,
go to his house now,
Yeah.
there are 45 paintings of mine hanging on the walls.
Yeah, the guy that
because
bought the house
they're my
put
mentors.
your
These two.
painting up.
Do you know?
Yeah,
you know
I
that?
heard your story about that.
Yeah. So this
he
is
built
like
an addition onto the house. And
yeah,
the
he
whole thing is
actually
lined with
didn't
your
need,
work.
yeah, he didn't need the studio, so he made it another. But I was there when my other mentors called me and said they bought property. I didn't know, and they said, "Here's your address. Go see what you can do." And when I went there, I realized this is the house of Norman Mercer. And I was walking around the house talking to Norman Mercer.
Yeah.
Like, Norman, what am I doing?
He used to have parties, the July 4th fireworks party.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. I didn't get to. When I met him, he was 91, and he lived to be 94 or 95.
Yeah, that's when I was his captain. I'm surprised he didn't bring you out on his sailboat. Did he ever bring you out on a sailboat?
No, he didn't.
Bro, every weekend he would have a different group of people on his boat, and a lot of them were painters, artists, and people in. His stories were terrific. He started out. I know this is not a thing about Norman Mercer, but it could be because it's a tribute.
Well,
to
he was here. I interviewed him twice, and we.
But he started out. He was at a young age. He had a problem with hearing, and he had to wear hearing aids. Back in those days, this was like World War II era.
Yeah, unattractive,
big, clunky looking thing, and people felt sorry for him. And he said he had a job in at Macy's. Selling silverware, dinnerware for knives and forks. And everybody felt so sorry for him that they would buy stuff from him. That's what he told me. And he said, I ended up selling so much silverware that I was making more money than the president of Macy's. And they fired me. And he went to Japan where this stuff was being made. And he set up a deal with the manufacturers. I guess this was after World War II, before World War. But anyway, after, and he started his own silverware company, and then he ultimately built a big manufacturing plant in New Jersey, and he was selling. And then he got into shoes. I don't know where the transition between the silverware and the shoes came in, but he owned, I think it was Buster Brown shoes, which was a big deal when I was a little kid. And he said that like for every pair of Buster Brown shoes he sold, he got $1. And they sold millions and millions and millions of these shoes to kids all over the U.S. when I was growing up. So, and then, he was a rich guy, but how tall? He was like 5 feet.
5'2".
5'2". Yeah, he was a short, tiny little guy.
I know, when he tapped my shoulder and I turned, I didn't see him.
Where are you? Oh, sorry.
But the thing is, after World War II, he decided to stay in Japan because he wanted to learn about the psyche of because he thought, where's all this gentleness and spiritual and all this wonderful culture of theirs? Where did it go? How did it end up being like that? And he was the one who developed the bulletproof plexiglass.
Oh, really?
Because he was a pilot, and they used to. So they actually, towards the last year of the war, they installed these. And then when he stayed in Japan, he explored. Because he said, I can turn it into art, and that was his passion on the sculptures, introducing color into the plexiglass and all this. But all these, and then when I learned about him, of course, I felt better about how I should feel according to. But he did not stop to mention that he thinks the world of me and that I should continue and all this. And I needed that. I have drips.
Very supportive.
I have drips in my house that I know for sure, without any hesitation. I don't care what, who, when, where. That if Jackson Pollock was to be alive and to visit me in my studio, he would make it a habit to come see me. Because there's a lot of things that I know that he doesn't. I actually take drip and splatter more seriously than he would have ever had the chance to.
So.
Because it's ongoing.
He only pursued that for like
not only that, the limitation of paint.
He
didn't have enough paint, and his favorite painting of the gallon of that red that was so precious to him. It's $100 in 1948, 49.
Oh, really?
$100
for a million
for a gallon
of the house paint.
House paint, yes, and it was just whatever. And even in the American Saga, when you read his autobiography, he writes about that. Today I'm, what's her name? His wife's name?
Elaine. Krasner.
Yeah, Lee Krasner. Lee said that today I'll be able to purchase that gallon because whatever a lot of the paintings that she sold of his were paid in increment in like payments.
Oh right, yeah.
So today she got the $3,000 for the second payment for this and that. So he's readying himself. I have 600 gallons in 1,500 quarts in 5,000 tubes.
Jesus.
Are you kidding me? I have more
What'd
paint.
you do with all that paint?
I dump it on the canvas. No, but what I mean is that in itself, I know I can do it any given time, whatever it is that I want, whatever instinctive plant, it doesn't matter. When it comes to also, I condition the surface with. I dump a lot of paint, and I roll. I'm a house painter, so I know how to do this thing.
Yeah.
I know the
Okay,
nature of paint. I'm aware of these things.
Right.
So I thought that the proper thing for me is to now and then take a break, like a year, to shy away from it, because I already know what I need to know. Really, I'm conditioned to do it for the rest of my life. There's no problem.
So
I don't need special conditions for that. I'm good.
you're gonna stop painting?
No. I'm talking about I stopped doing splatter and drip.
Oh, you're gonna try something else?
I do all the time, but
Okay.
but there's certain times where I would say for a whole year I'm not going to touch this issue.
I like your recent stuff with stripes. And,
Yes, yeah. And now I'm actually capitalizing on it and taking it therefore to a different level.
This is something you did over at Chris LaCour's gallery that was beautiful. It looked like iridescent paint underneath.
Yes,
covered green,
with texture,
shining and metallic.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like,
yeah.
Wow, what's under there? What's going on?
Yeah,
back
there was actually a fully established painting underneath that I decided to
work over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gave it another dimension. I don't, you use the word 3 dimensions routinely, but this almost had like through the looking glass kind of dimension to it. In other words, like there's something going on back there, but you can't see it. Yeah.
And I have another like 5 or 6 paintings from this demeanor that is before and after this particular one. So it's nice. It's a good feeling.
Oh, I see what you're
because
saying.
when I'm successful with something, I want to capitalize it immediately. I know that this is not a guarantee that it's going to be here, that I feel this way tomorrow or next week. I want to take advantage of it.
It's the
So I developed being able to succumb to that.
Yeah.
And to do it. Okay, so and then sometimes I have to abandon certain things that are not so important. Everything is important, but that I can do without for now. So I know how to wheel and deal. Yes.
You have to weigh it.
And people out there don't realize to what extent we need to be like technicians. That we need to be able to.
We do. What you need to do is buy another house to store all your paintings.
Oh my God! Yes,
that's what Picasso could do.
Yeah.
He was paid at the end of his life so much money that he would buy another castle in the south of France. And he owned like 12 castles, and he filled them all up with paintings.
Yeah.
And when they got filled up, he just left and bought another one.
Yes.
Another castle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anyway, so whether you believe it or not, we deciphered the whole hour, 58 minutes.
All right.
And then
congratulations to us.
Thank God it's over.
That bad, huh?
You forgive me, I assume.
Yeah. No, I wasn't listening to what you were saying anyway.
I had that coming, by the way. I deserve that.
No,
I'm a bad boy.
Brought up some great memories, Michael Knigan and Norman Mercer.
Yeah, I know. And then this is
guys.
The good news is that this is the beginning between us, and this is the beginning for the sake of the privilege of people of our community to be able to turn on the TV and to see public access and to see us guys doing our thing and talking. And again, the beauty is that we don't have to rush. We have a lot of room here, you and I, to bring to life and to light a lot of aspects. So that's what the actually very exciting part of it. And I'm looking forward for this continuation. So first of all, let me just say Happy New Year to all of you out there, and our blessings here from LTV, and the fact that we want to let you know that none of what you do and contribute goes unnoticed. We notice everything and we appreciate it. So we're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday and as much as we're here this morning, January 2nd, year 2025, and thanking my guest, Bob Sullivan, from the bottom of my heart, and telling
Happy
you
New Year to everybody as well.
And thank you, Bob, and we'll see you sooner than later, I assume, and I believe, and I'm looking forward to.